Welcome back to The Critique. We're looking at a reaction script from Nux Taku about the Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, specifically hitting on her linguistic and scientific claim.
Yeah, this one it's high energy, for sure. You can feel the creator trying to funnel a lot of that internet outrage into an argument. So let's see if we can, tighten the screws and make it land a bit harder.
Right. So, first big thing. The critique frequently prioritizes the low-hanging fruit, the pronunciation stuff, over the more damning evidence about her scientific illiteracy. And that, I think, really weakens the whole argument of intellectual superiority that the piece is trying to make.
It does. It's an opportunity cost, isn't it? If you're spending all your time on one thing, you're not spending it on something that might be more impactful.
Exactly. Let's look at the weakness here. The script spends just a disproportionate amount of time looping on mispronunciation. Words like spontaneity, revelations, and especially posthumous.
Oh, yeah, the posthumous section. I mean, it replays it over and over with reactions like, that's crazy, that's insane. It's trying for comedy.
It is. And look, it works for a second. It establishes she's unprepared. But after the third or fourth loop, it just feels repetitive.
Yeah, it dilutes the impact. So by the time the creator actually gets to the real meat, the scientific errors or the real history,
the listener's already kind of tired. You've exhausted them with surface-level stuff.
That makes total sense. You spend 5 minutes laughing at a syllable, you have less narrative capital when she says something that, defies physics. You want the audience mad about her logic, not just bored of her stutter. So, what's the fix?
The suggestion is pretty straightforward. Adopt a hit-and-move structure for the linguistic errors. Save that narrative energy for the logic and science rebuttals.
So from a pacing perspective, maybe a montage or something?
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Instead of repeating the posthumous clip multiple times, just group them. Spontaneity, revelations, posthumous, put them in a single rapid-fire montage right at the start.
Right. You make the point unprepared in 20 seconds, and then you move on. You don't drag everyone through the mud.
And then you use that time you just saved to really deconstruct the 30 degrees argument. Right now, the script just says, yeah, because 30 degrees is below freezing temperature, dipshit.
Which is funny, I get it, but it's not it doesn't really teach anything.
No. So you could strengthen this by explicitly explaining why 30 degrees supports the presence of ice. You contrast it with her claim that it's warmer in some spots. You move from just, she's dumb, to here is the actual physics she is completely missing.
That just elevates the whole critique. It makes the host seem way smarter than the subject, which is, that's the whole point of the piece.
It is. And the same thing applies to the moon landing section.
Right. She asks, why didn't we go back? And the script just kind of sputters in disbelief.
So the concrete fix here is to swap that incredulity with data. When she asks the question, the creator should just immediately list the mission. Apollo 12, 14, 15, 16, 17.
So you just instantly dismantle the whole premise with hard facts, not emotion. She says we never went back and you just hit her with 5 mission numbers. That feels way more persuasive.
It's undeniable. Okay, let's move on. Second issue, rhetorical precision versus, aggressive colloquialism. The reliance on these inflammatory slurs and aggressive labels, it really undermines the creator's position as the rational observer. It makes it too easy for the other side to just dismiss everything.
Yeah, that's a huge point. The vocabulary feels young. It feels like it's trying to be edgy, but it ends up just giving the other side a weapon.
It absolutely does. The weakness is the repeated use of the slur retarded, calling her a bitch, calling her dumb. And yeah, the persona is abrasive. It's a shock jock thing. I get it. But that specific vocabulary just lowers the intellectual floor of the entire commentary.
And it lets Owens or, her defenders just recategorize the whole thing as hateful harassment. They can say, oh, he's just shouting slurs, and then they don't have to engage with the points about the ice or the moon.
It gives them a complete out. It muddies the water between, valid criticism and just schoolyard bullying. So the suggestion is to elevate the insult vocabulary, make it match the intellectual critique.
You want the insult to stick because it's accurate, right? Not just because it's loud.
Precisely. So, for example, replace the repeated use of she's actually retarded with terms that actually describe the cognitive failure. Use phrases like willfully ignorant or scientifically illiterate.
Scientifically illiterate hurts way more. It's so much more specific.
It is. It's a sharper knife. It frames it as a failure of education, not just an empty insult. And what about the reaction to Ben Shapiro's jokes? The script just says he is locked in.
Right.
Instead of just cheering, analyze why Shapiro's response is so effective. Explain that he's using her lack of WW2 knowledge against her by using WW2 terms.
Oh, that's good. So you're not just a fan in the stands, you're the color commentator breaking down the technique.
Exactly. And for the Erica Kirk situation, the script says, fuck this bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, but to make that rhetorically precise, you need to articulate the specific cruelty of attacking a widow.
So instead of a curse word, this is a moral failing.
You say, this is an attack on a grieving woman, and that actually sets up the biblical conclusion later on so much better. It makes the argument that she isn't just dumb, she's actively cruel.
Which transitions us really well into the whole narrative structure and the lore issue. The script just assumes I know all this backstory.
Yes, that's our third critique. The material relies heavily on phantom citations, or just assumed knowledge of past controversies.
Yeah, it feels like the creator assumes their audience is exactly as online as they are, which is, a big assumption.
It's a trap. The weakness is that the creator just drops references to deep lore and past art, like Owens blaming Jews for the slave trade, or that she thinks Jews invented dinosaurs.
Right. And he says things like, I'm not even making this up, man.
But he doesn't show us any. If I hear she thinks Jews invented dinosaurs, my first thought isn't, wow, she's crazy. It's, wait, did she actually say that? Show me.
Exactly. There are no clips, no quotes, no evidence presented in this piece. So if you don't already know the history, it just sounds like a hyperbolic straw man.
It's dangerous. You start to sound like the very people you're trying to critique. So the suggestion is simple. Show, don't just tell. Or at the very least, give a one-sentence summary.
Okay, so building on that, how do you fix the Jews invented dinosaurs claim?
Simple example. Briefly insert the specific quote or the context. Even a screenshot of the tweet or a 3-second audio clip would do it. A claim that Wilde cannot go unsupported.
And Erica Kirk? The script just says Owens is alleging everyone's trying to kill her, and she blames Erica Kirk.
But it doesn't say how or why. You need one brief explanatory sentence. Something like, she insinuated the widow was involved in her husband's death to gain control of their organization.
Oh, see, that changes everything.
Right? That single sentence justifies the creator's anger. The audience gets the stakes. It's not just internet drama. It's a serious, ugly accusation.
And the asteroid belt thing?
Same issue. Explain what she thinks the belt physically does. Explain that she thinks it's a literal barrier in space. Once you explain the mechanics of her flawed belief, debunking it is easy and much more satisfying.
Okay, that brings us to the end, which, it takes a really sharp turn.
It certainly does. Our last point is that the transition from that internet shock jock humor to a serious biblical condemnation creates just a jarring tonal disconnect.
Yeah, is the connection between the comedy and the sermon really established?
Not right now, no. The piece just oscillates between laughing at Luftwaffles to a sudden, deadly serious reading from Exodus, threatening divine retribution. The line is literally, God is going to Candace Owens.
That is a pivot. It's like a stand-up set that ends with a funeral.
Exactly. It feels unearned and disjointed. It comes across as manic, not poignant. The audience is left wondering if they should be laughing or, repenting.
Right. The anger is clearly real, but the delivery just kind of breaks the format of the show. So how do we make that stronger?
The suggestion is to thread that moral argument, the one about the widow and the fatherless, throughout the entire piece. That way, the biblical conclusion feels like a logical crescendo, not a sudden mood swing.
You're planting the seeds earlier. You can't just drop the bomb at the end.
You got it. So, for example, introduce the theme of harming the defenseless much earlier, maybe when Shapiro is defending Charlie Kirk's memory.
That makes sense. Frame it around loyalty, not just a political dunk.
And frame the bullying discussion not just as she deserves it because she's dumb, but as she deserves it because she punches down.
So that sets up the Exodus verse perfectly. If you've spent the whole script establishing her as a bully of the week, then that verse becomes the ultimate judgment on that specific behavior.
Yes, it turns the whole thing into a moral argument. And then for the transition itself.
Right.
Just soften it. Instead of jumping straight from, "She deserves all of this," to the verse, use a bridge. Something like, "For someone who talks so much about religion, she seems to have forgotten a key warning."
That ties her own hypocrisy directly to the text. It makes the Bible verse a gotcha on her own terms, not just the host shouting scripture.
Exactly. It turns the ending into a devastating final argument about her character. It synthesizes the intellectual failure with the moral failure.
These are really strong adjustments. This moves the script from just a reaction video to something more like a video essay.
And that's the goal. So to recap, the actionable advice is pretty clear. First, streamline the pronunciation mockery into a montage. Save the time for the scientific rebuttal.
Check.
Second, elevate the language. Move from slurs to precise descriptors of cognitive failure. Don't give them an excuse to ignore you.
Got it.
Third, contextualize the lore. Use quick summaries, your clips, so the audience isn't lost. Show the receipts.
Right.
And finally, smooth that tonal bridge between the comedy and the moral condemnation. Make that biblical ending land with the maximum possible impact.
It's all about respecting the audience while still delivering that punch.
We invite the listener to refine the script with these notes and send in the next version for review. We'd love to see where this goes.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Until next time.